Hello. I woke up feeling a lot of anxiety this morning, which isn't really unusual for me. That's something that I just happen to have in my life is a lot of anxiety. I live with it, but I've learned over the years, after a lot of struggle, that it doesn't have to necessarily be a terrible thing, and that anxiety. With anxiety, you can experience some amount of superpowers with that, and um, and there's a lot of gratitude that I have with that right now. But this morning was especially anxious, and it wasn't necessarily for any reason. It just happens from time to time where I get that anxiety in the early morning. And I tend to think that many people who have an anxiety disorder might have the same experience. Uh, Morning anxiety, just waking up in the morning, feeling those butterflies in the stomach, just feeling the mind immediately start to turn and start to run through scenarios. That's what happens. It's catastrophizing. It's all that kind of good stuff. So I just wanted to kind of go over some of the things that some of the things that I try to do every single day. I don't do all of these things every day, but many of these things do help me on a daily basis to just kind of reframe my mindset in the early morning, to put myself in a positive state, to really bring myself into a position where I can be productive and use the anxiety to my advantage, to be more productive, to have better focus, and to bring more calm to my mind, which is often trying to work against me. So I know that might affect you, some of you as well. So hopefully this helps. Happy to answer any questions or learn more from any of you that might have other things. That would be great to hear about. But I mean, the first and foremost, the priority in every morning should be to start your day off on a positive note, in some way positive, regardless of what happened the previous day. It is seen as something of a new start every morning. You get out of bed. To put yourself in a state of negativity, to allow yourself to descend into where your mind is trying to take you, it might be a difficult thing, and it only serves to make the battle of trying to get through the day that much more difficult. So if you feel that urge immediately in getting up, where, oh my gosh, I don't want to get out of bed, I'm afraid to do this today, this is going to end horribly, or whatever starts to happen, if you immediately start to put into action some steps to kind of curb that, and to bring a greater calm, to accept and to surrender and to do the right things to move forward, that will help to give yourself a new baseline on which to start. Doesn't mean bad things aren't going to happen throughout the course of the day. It doesn't mean that you're not going to go through those challenges, but you might have a better frame of mind to actually approach what you have to deal with during the day. And the first step is what you shouldn't do. And it's what I'm guilty of a lot. It's what I think a lot of us do, is we pick up this very object that I have in my hand right here. It's the phone. Immediately go on to Facebook, immediately go on to social news, immediately go onto news websites or things like that will show obviously the negative themes. And you're going to start your day, if you do that, by looking at something, by catching a post of somebody saying something that you don't necessarily agree with, or seeing something about somebody who said something that you don't agree with, or some news article that's just going to put you in the wrong frame of mind. Don't start there. Don't give in to the urge. Trust me on this, and I struggle with it too, but I struggle with it all the time, every morning. First thing I want to do, this thing is addictive, I want to pick up the phone, but try to stifle that urge. And first thing in the morning, is just get into a practice of some routine of something you do for the first 10 minutes every single day. For me, it's a breathing technique that I really, really love. I've been doing it for a few years. It's called the Wim Hof method. And it's a very, very easy method. It's free. Oxygen is free. You can breathe it, and it's really simple. You simply breathe in very deeply for 40 breaths, and I'm not going to explain it very well here, so I suggest you look up WIMHOF, Wim Hof method, and it'll go through the breathing cycle. But essentially, breathe in very deeply, for one beat, and then let it out, and then you do that 40 times. It's not hyperventilating. It's very deliberate. Right into the belly, and then let it go. You do that 40 times. You may get lightheaded, so you want to make sure that you're doing this in a comfortable spot, like in your bed, laying down, or in a comfortable chair, something like that. And then on the very, very last breath, on that 40th breath, you breathe out, breathe all the way out, breathe your oxygen all the way out, and let your lungs sit empty for as long as you can until you have the urge to breathe. Sometimes I go for 2 or 3 minutes without taking a breath in. It's that powerful. It just kind of demonstrates when you fully oxygenate your blood, you can that you can sit for a long time without having to take a breath, and that affects your blood chemistry as such that it actually has a calming effect, and oxygenating your blood like that is actually very therapeutic. I recommend giving it a try. It's done wonders for my energy, for my immunity, for my vitality, and for my anxiety. First thing in the morning, if I'm feeling anxious, that takes me right out of it. It puts me right into a state of calm, and it puts me right in the moment. So Wim Hof is a good one. Also, any other kind of breathing exercises, if that's a little too extreme, then I just suggest taking deep breaths. Do a breathing technique. 10 deep breaths is one that's very simple. You just breathe in for 5 seconds, hold it at the top for about 6 seconds, and then let it go for about 5 seconds. And as you let go of your breath, feel your jaw start to relax, feel your shoulders start to relax, feel your neck start to relax, and your hands start to relax. Those are the 4 real tension areas that you that you really hold that tension. I mean, think of when you're feeling anxious, you clench your jaw, you clench your shoulders, you clench your hands. So you want to relax those areas and be very deliberate about that as you do it. And just take those 10 deep breaths, and that's a good way to start your day. Another thing is meditation. Meditation, speaking from my experience, meditation is very difficult for anxious people. We can't shut the brain down a lot of times. I have trouble with it, but it all depends on how you look at the definition of what meditation really is and what it's about. Meditation is not shutting off the mind. We can't do that. We physically can't shut the mind down and force it to stop thinking about things. But what we can do in meditation, what I found very successful for me was a method that was Michael Singer, who wrote The Surrender Experiment, which is a great book. I recommend you check it out if you want to learn anything about meditation and trying to get out of your own head. Just recommends really more of an observant mode, where you're observing your thoughts in a non-judgmental way. Most of the time when we are thinking about things, when our minds are racing or we're in that anxious moment, we're stuck in our heads. We're stuck in there. We're living. We are experiencing those thoughts as very real. But if we try to spend that 10 minutes of meditation just sitting non-judgmentally, looking at these thoughts, recognizing that thoughts won't hurt us, but also just trying to observe them and pointing out, that's anxiety. Okay, that's feeling a little bit down. That's this. If we do that, then we can learn to dissociate from the emotions, so to speak, of those feelings, and start to more bring a little bit more calm and serenity to our lives in a more stoic way. So that's a good way of trying to practice something, and that's why it is a practice. By the way, it's not something that is perfected. So if you get frustrated with meditation, you're not alone. I hate sitting down for 10 minutes just not doing anything, but it's necessary because it works, and it effectively allows me to keep my mind calm, to reframe how I'm using my mind instead of living in my head, being more of an observant consciousness towards what's happening in my mind, and that really helps. The next one you're not going to like so much, but again, it's also a very useful one. And for those of us who live in the warmer climates, it gets a little difficult during the summertime to do this, but during the winter, it's great. If you have a shower or some kind of water pool or anything like that is below, say 60 degrees, jumping into that water or just immersing yourself in really, really cold water is an effective way to reduce that anxiety. I know it sounds counterintuitive because that sounds very anxiety inducing, but actually immersing yourselves in situations that would cause anxiety, that are safe like that, tend to build our strength over time. And there's some arguments that the cold immersion has some level of health benefits that are beneficial. But it's a good way to start your day. Obviously, it's tough in the summertime, but it is a good thing to start your day with. And another one, of course, instead of picking up the phone, maybe picking up a book, something that is empowering, something that really maybe we try to learn something new about our perspective on the world and how to reframe our thoughts a little bit. The thing I'm reading right now is a book that's by Martin Seligman named Learned Optimism, and it may be backwards on your screen, but it's kind of the opposite of learned helplessness. And it's an interesting read by a psychologist who is studied the idea of how we essentially learn to be helpless in many ways, and how we could change that perspective into something called learned optimism. I'm an optimist at heart, so it's nice to kind of get that validated. But just empowering books, things that do change your mindset. It's a good way to really get started. Another great thing to start your day to help with the anxiety, because our minds are always working. If your mind is starting to just go crazy in the middle of the day, giving it an activity to do, something that's very productive, something that gives it, something that shifts the focus onto something productive, will really help to bring anxiety down. I like to do what's called a creativity purge. For 5 to 10 minutes every morning. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's writing, practicing with the writing muscle. Maybe it's drawing. Maybe you're a creative artist or what have you, and that's helpful. But doing something to start your day. Maybe it's music. Maybe it's playing a guitar, playing a violin, or whatever your instrument of choice is. Singing, whatever have you. Those kinds of things not only shift the brain chemistry to put you in a better mood, but also put you into a creative place where throughout the rest of the day, if you're in a creative mindset, you're also more productive. So that's helpful to get your day started in the right positive way. And then next, in addition to on the as kind of an addition to the creativity purge part, one idea that I like by James Altucher was who's a blogger and an author, is the idea of writing 5 to 10 ideas down every morning. Just, they don't have to be great. They can be super dumb. I mean, they can be like, hey, I want to make a shopping cart that floats on ice skates. That's a great idea. It's maybe not very practical, but if you can think of 5 or 10 of these kinds of ideas, it gets your brain moving again in that creative direction. And you may find a gem in there that you can act on and turn into something really great. So that's an idea on how to produce some creativity early in the morning, and get that brain chemistry starting to flow a little bit. And then, of course, this is talked about a lot in terms of bringing down anxiety, but the right kind of movement, exercise, whether it be walking, whether it be running, but make sure, especially in the early morning, it's good if you're going to use that as a meditation to make it easy, aerobic, simple exercise. Nothing too aggressive, no hard intervals or anything like that. I know that for some people, maybe that does help with psychological disorder like depression or anxiety to go really hard and to run it out. But what that does over the long term is it's going to burn you out if you're doing that every day. It's going to cause injury. It's going to cause more problems. And for me personally, and maybe this affects some of you as well, when you do run hard and you start your day or doing really, really hard workouts, that may contribute to anxiety. if we just start to to focus on those days, or focus on the first part of our day, on ourselves, on bringing calm, on bringing focus, on bringing energy, on bringing things that will activate and inspire and empower us. That's the beauty of a sunrise. It's a new beginning. And we have an opportunity every single morning to start that way. Instead of looking ahead and catastrophizing about the future, or looking in the past and wishing we'd done something different, this is the time where we do have that very moment to start new and focus on this very moment. And it's such a powerful time of the day. It's the most beautiful time of the day. And it's the one time of day where people with anxiety can look at it and really start to reframe their thoughts. And I just will say this for anybody that's living with an anxiety disorder and thriving, and trying to thrive and trying to do the better thing. You are the most courageous people I know. I know what you're going through, and you know, it's easy. It's hard to. There's challenges with being brave. Sorry, I'm having a tough time framing this thought. Being brave is when we're afraid, but we go anyway. And I know that as an anxious person, it's easy to become afraid. But going anyway builds so much strength, builds so much character, builds so much compassion and ability to thrive. There's so much negativity going on right now in our world. There's everywhere we look on social media. But we can be a force for good, and it starts with the first part of the morning. And I really want to convey that message to, you know, everyone I can see is just seeing how much suffering there is right now, seeing how much hurt there is. If we are able to just focus internally on improving ourselves first, putting our mask on before we put the mask on somebody else. So start your day off right, and I thank you for listening. I hope your days go bright, and I wish everybody health and safety as they approach the day. Have a great day.